Hey everyone, I am here looking forward to creating or continuing to create this uh, first subscriber scenario. So, very much looking forward to this. It has been so much fun. I've been going over with a few of you about titles and, oh, not titles. I created the title and then we create a bit of the story together, and then uh, or you help me flesh out what I've already done, and then you help me, continue creating what this scenario is all about, which is really cool. A few of you thoroughly enjoyed the last time, the last scenario, and that was where the VIP research and development type ship got attacked, or debris hit it or something, and then it crash landed. Yeah, so that was fun, and a lot of you really enjoyed that. So you wanted to do something else similar. So hey, sounds cool. It was a lot of fun. It really was. It was definitely tough. I believe the engine. I'm not for certain, but I believe the engine, the story, creation engine, uh, realized that we had very much stacked the deck some in our favor, and so it brought the answer of uh, challenge. So I'm looking forward to checking this out and going over the scenario in this episode, and then the next episode will be the beginning of in-game play. So this episode is all about creation, about the thought processes that you all have had or are having with me, and just a lot of fun. And so I'm gonna bring in some of your ideas now that you told me over the past number of days and episodes, and through Twitter, and messaging me on there, and a couple of you on Snapchat. Very cool of you. Very cool, by the way. And so yeah, having fun with the discussions on there, and the back and forth and all. And yeah, so keep messaging me, giving me your ideas and thoughts about the scenario here, and what we are creating. So very fun. I am well. Let's go ahead and review a bit. So some of this is similar to before, and some of this some of it is the exact same sort of configuration or parts that were added, right? So let's go ahead and let's review. So it will be a colony type faction of probably 6 people. Some people were saying more, but I was also told that there were some limits. I haven't really tested it out, not fully. I've been busy with these scenarios, jumping in with it. I definitely look forward to doing some more sandboxing on my own. That is thoroughly enjoyable, but I'm I definitely want to make sure that I bring you all in as much as possible, because that's the one thing I do enjoy the most, is hanging out with you all, having an awesome time, and just awesome stuff. So okay, so drop pod, crypto sleep. A lot of people say cryo sleep. I have as well. I have to catch myself, and it is crypto sleep sickness. So yeah, they are going to have that. A few of the people did come out of deep sleep, while the rest of the crew was killed almost immediately in the surprise attack sort of scenario. Then, like for instance, the bridge crew was decimated immediately. That was one of the first targets. So whatever or whoever was attacking and or hit the ship, hit the bridge first. and critically hit. And what was found in some of the logs was that the ship was complete, the bridge was completely obliterated. It was no longer present on the vessel. So it wasn't just hit and damaged completely. It was ripped off and just it was slammed. So it was completely ripped off, or just blown to pieces where it's not recognizable. Enough of that. You get the point. It was dead. It died dead. So, silver. We are going to drop with some silver. We are from a glitter world sort of scenario. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, everybody has a beautiful sort of trait, or at least most people do. Hard worker, which does help. The other thing I was considering was, where is it here? Not necessarily optimist, but goodness. So where'd it go? So industrious. That's right. So I was considering hard worker, but industrious is also something I was very much considering. I believe that each person is still limited to 3 sort of traits. At least I believe they are. So, heat lover, because the sort of scenario which was brought up by props to SAS 44 brought the idea up that if it's from a glitter world sort of planet, then maybe it's from Earth. And in this particular scenario, in this particular version of this RimWorld universe, then Earth is a glitter world, but the climate has changed, and well, it's hot. It's not just warm. It's quite a hot planet. So humanity has evolved to adapt to that, but at the same time, being it's a glitter world sort of planet, they have controlled systems, and it's not that big of a deal. But still, humanity has adapted, and it isn't that much of an issue like it would be to other parts of humanity that's scattered out. And so yeah, good stuff. Glow pods. I just added this, and I was considering adding a few of these in. Glow pods, if you didn't know, are things that come from the insects that you somehow that you sometimes encounter when you're digging in through the mountainous areas, right? Or the if you don't necessarily want to think about them as mountainous areas, it's those large rubble zones that you dig into and you create your base inside of, basically, right? Some people think of them as being like possibly large rubble zones where a skyscraper might have crumbled and fallen, part of a city, right? And other people think of it as being into a mountain, right? Mining out into a mountain. So it's fun to think about the different scenarios. Yes, you're mining into all the stone and all that, but if you want to use your imagination and can think about that, you're actually mining into rubble that does have those sorts of stone elements. Because the other part that somebody brought up was the fact that you find steel inside of the rubble, right? And you don't find steel. You find elements. You find bits and pieces of the elements that create steel, right? But you don't find direct steel. So that steel is created. This is what the person was saying. Was that there's a different process for creating certain things, just like plasteel. in this game. You don't find plasteel in the natural world, right? It's created, it's artificial, and so yeah, it was an interesting point, and so yeah, good times, right? And so what I like to think of is they crash land in an area uh, that is an old city, right, or some sort of old established civilization area, right? So, yeah, interesting stuff, a lot of fun. But yeah, these glow pods, I thought it'd be fun to see what we could do with them, and just throw them in just for fun. Maybe there's insects around, and maybe they scattered and ran away a bit because when we crash landed they were scared. But when we dig into their hive area, possibly while we're digging through digging our base out. Oh man, I'm tired. Excuse me. Sorry, everybody. Yawning on you here. Arg. So, but yeah, it'll be fun. And then, of course, they'll be attacking us and or defending their area when we get into that sort of scenario. So, that'll be fun. But we'll see. Maybe we won't even encounter them. Maybe we'll just happen upon some glow pods that are around the area, because they are around, but we don't necessarily see them. So, beautiful, hard worker, and heat lover. Chance of 100% each one. Now, I've also considered if we change the percentage, then we can add some more potential traits. So, I've considered that, and it's something that's of interest. But some people said, why don't you, since they are glitter world sort of people, then why don't you add certain things that are interesting, right? And in terms of glitter world people are most likely, probably, genetically altered, right? To be optimized humans. And so what would that entail? What would that be? So they'd probably be beautiful sort of people being genetically altered, where they have certain attractive genetics, right, in terms of looks, but also genetic elements where they maybe they're optimists all the time, where they take care of business, where they go at it, where they get things done, maybe they're iron-willed or steadfast, or maybe they're somewhat neurotic, right? That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. Some people said, in terms of the psychic elements, possibly they're psychically deaf, or at least dulled, due to the fact that if they do have, like for instance, like joy wire, right? If it's somehow integrated with them or into them, then they aren't really affected as much. So, some other things here. Different things in terms of their not just their trait, which I don't like abrasive. Abrasive is horrible. Is if they are steadfast, taking care of their business, doing what they need to do, right? Maybe they're too smart, right? Maybe. But at the same time, if they are glitter world, or maybe even a little bit beyond glitter world, just slightly, not too much, not like in the actual lore of RimWorld, whereas some civilizations are far and beyond other parts of humanity, right? And when I say civilizations, I do mean human civilizations throughout the galaxy. So I considered Optimus, taking care of business, steadfast. I like the steadfast one. Yeah, that's interesting. So 85%. I'm gonna go with heat lover, yeah, 100%. Hard worker, I'm gonna put down to uh, 75. No, hard worker is 85. Uh, and so, okay. Now, beautiful, they all are that. Hard worker, not as much. Steadfast, um, not as much. So we'll see once we get in here, and we'll see what happens. So charge rifles. This ship was a higher level sort of ship with personnel that have certain capabilities and certain positions of leadership and power, and or of importance. Not necessarily in some egotistical way of importance, but in terms of literal importance. Like it's a scientist that's trying to cure some sort of disease, or maybe developing some sort of weapon. So, important in some way, shape, or form. So they're going to have certain things that are needed for survival, or give them a much higher chance of surviving. But we all know RimWorld. And if this is your first time, then oh boy, this is going to be awesome. But we know that there's no real chance of being perfectly able and capable and surviving everything and being okay, right? So so the thing is, no matter how much you stack the deck in your favor, then yeah, it's yeah, just like in any sort of scenario in life, you're gonna get surprises and you're gonna get slammed at times. So yeah, good times to be had by all. So, alright, let's go ahead and get through this. Since they are glitter world sort of people, healing speed is huge. Global learning factor is massive, with the multipliers here being 1,000 of each of those. Now, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm not sure if it's going to work. See, the thing is, I haven't messed with all of these things, and percentages, do they actually only go like to 100%, really? And this 1,000 isn't even applicable, so it'll rearrange it on its own? I'm not sure. So research speed factor, multiplier of 110, mining speed of 500, just simply because I do want to get into it, and I did consider possibly they do have some advanced cutting tools that they can use, or at least makeshift, so they can help mine in. And that's not necessarily going to be something you see, but it's part of the lore, part of the story, part of the creation. So just use your imagination and go with it, right? So Joy Wire, I've considered adding this in because they are from a glitter world sort of civilization, and Joy Wire is something in that civilization. Not necessarily a good thing, but it's part of it, and possibly everybody's has one, or is in touch with Joy Wire, right? Yeah. So, also starting research. They already know about vital monitors because this stuff drops with them in the emergency module that jettisons from the ship with the escape pods. Luckily, that wasn't destroyed, or some of it partially was at least damaged. So they're not going to have everything, and there's going to be bits and pieces all over the landscape on the map, which I've set up, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So, but yeah, starting research is gun turrets, hospital bed, fire foam, microelectronics, moisture pump, and vital monitor. And so I'm going to go ahead and move that up a little more just to have it organized underneath the hospital bed. So these things are a given in terms of their ability to survive. And so they are equipped for scenarios if something would occur. Since it is a higher level ship with higher level personnel, they would have these things in place. Now, some of this stuff I'm not necessarily sure about. Some of the stuff is high level things and stuff like that, but um, some of you brought up the point that they and I also thought of this, but you brought up the point, and I definitely want to add it in, was the fact that they aren't able to do lower level sort of stuff. Uh, in some ways, I agree with that. Some ways, I don't agree with that, because if they are prepared for a survival sort of scenario, or if they're prepared for an emergency sort of scenario, then maybe they'd know some of it. But in all actuality, they probably really won't know anything about it. So it's interesting. I've been debating or discussing and debating in my own mind, going back and forth, deciding on what would be actual and what wouldn't, right? So, geothermal power, possibly. Uh, Ship computer core, yeah, possibly. Where the ship AI does constantly back up itself, and or it completely dumps itself into the escape emergency module that is jettisoned from the ship. So, interesting things. It's just stuff I've been considering. Instead of a moisture pump, then maybe it's some sort of other scenario. Meaning, if of course, microelectronics, probably some of these people are scientists. Some of this stuff is just general knowledge at this level, and or they also have a database where they can just learn stuff quite rapidly, and or at least research it and put the pieces together so they can quickly get things up and operational. Gun turrets, most likely, taken from the ship itself and or found around the area. Let's just say that, right? And then they create gun turrets with parts, or it's part of the schematics for general safety and protection of the campsite in an emergency situation, right? Whatever, that kind of thing. So, multi-analyzer would be useful. It would be good. Uh, they can research it quickly and get it up and running, and add it on to the advanced research sort of bench, right? That kind of thing. Hydroponics would be interesting. Being able to have hydroponics indoors, or at least having small growing pod inside the emergency module that was jettisoned. Yeah, I'm getting into the potential things in the story. I know it's not actuality, and we're gonna have to build a lot of this out. But we'll see. This is what some of you thought about. This is what some of you said that would be interesting, and yeah. So we'll see. We'll come back here in a few minutes, maybe if it's something we think is important. So, in terms of power armor, we decided that there are going to be VIPs, and they are going to have their own set of power armor. Most likely, either they wear it. Maybe it's not the typical power armor that you think of, but it's more of like a body suit that's extremely capable, similar to like the Mass Effect universe, right? Where they had their suits. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily combat suits all the time, but most of the time it was at least combat capable, right? And so yeah, and some of it was made for fighting and combat. It just simply was made for that. So yeah, similar to that kind of scenario. Armored vests, they're going to have those. If they don't have the power armor, then some of the other personnel are going to have armored vests, because they're either part of the security element and or they have them available for scenarios, because they know some of the worlds that they're traveling near or around, or some of the areas are, have threatening factions that are present. So PDWs, personal defense weapon, 4 of those out and about, and or PDWs that are in the actual escape pods themselves. They were ready for potential of, if a bad situation happens, then yeah, they're going to at least have some sort of chance against it. Alright, so game start dialogue. I'm going to go ahead and move this up. And you can see some of the things that have been added. And so, alright. So, in terms of the title, summary, description, and then the actual starting dialogue, the little box in the middle that pops up, right? I've been, I created this title, and it is Leap from Armageddon. And the summary, for now at least, we might do some rearranging, but probably not. The summary is 6 crash-landed survivors, and my subscriber created room world experience. Probably going to end up publishing this on Steam once we fine-tune it a bit, and once we have our own fun with it. Why not give it, right? Give it out, let others enjoy. And so the actual description is, the group of you awake in your crypto sleep sarcophagi, and to the sound of death, sirens, and ripping metal. So, pirate attack, worse than that? It could be worse. You barely get to the escape pods and jettison the emergency module before the ship is torn apart. Sometime later, you land on this little known room world. So, yeah, interesting. And game start dialogue is, and there we go. So, during drop, ship debris critically hit. That should be during the drop, correct? Yeah. Yeah, so during the drop, ship debris critically hit. And it gets, so yeah, critically hit, we got totally slammed. Our pod group diverting a few of us from the primary landing zone and crashing in this low resolution map area. Now it's we few. So they got this small group here. They got separated and from the main group that escaped. So there's other groups of survivors out and around on this planet, and that's something else that people wanted and that I thought was a great idea that I was considering doing, was creating multiple stories with different survivors in the same areas. So yeah, it'll be fun. I very much am looking forward to that. So yep, good times. So we shall see. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this particular part, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of these different things coming up in the next video. And for instance, a lot of people are wondering about animals, and we're just going to have one dog, husky, as a pet. Consider putting a wolf in and all the other stuff, but not really. That doesn't necessarily make sense. So husky is going to be a pet, or I consider putting two in. I considered that, but just one for now. Also, I was hoping there would be a way to actually see if we could train up the husky ahead of time, be trained already, but I don't see an option for that yet. At least not in the vanilla game, and that is what I'm using. So, enough steel, enough wood, ship chunks, so quite a bit of supplies, meaning a lot of wood, meaning when there's a crash landing, then trees get splintered apart, things get blown to pieces and go all over on the land itself. So let's just say there's a lot of wood around hanging out, and you can just pick it up and use it as needed. So yeah. Alright, a lot of steel from a lot of the debris that had landed. Plasteel. That was part of the emergency module. So we're going to build the emergency module out of plasteel. And go from there with that. So, yeah. Alright, scattered randomly around are a bunch of packaged survivor meals all over the map. Apparently, part of the container, or a few of the containers, got damaged. And the survivor meals went all over the atmosphere and fell down, and there we go. A few were scattered about. So PDWs, armored vests, we've talked over all this. So, okay, I am still considering changing this moisture pump out to something else. And we'll see. Auto doors, I'm considering. Very much considering auto doors. It's something that is just going to be part of the emergency escape area, or emergency escape module that gets jettisoned. And we'll go no. I've considered component assembly. I've considered that. And so we'll see. We will see. But most likely auto doors. And we might add a few more things. But for now, that's about it. So, alright, this is pretty well stacked in our favor, but you have to also remember it will definitely counter us. So, alright, next video, people, I will be going over with you and talking about the characters, and that's really fun. Is going over and figuring out which characters we will be having. So, alright, I will see you in the next video, and thanks for liking, subscribing, and following, and hanging out in the stream if you're live here with me. So, good times. I'll see you in just a little while here, or in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.